But sometimes the Lord puts a thought in your mind at the right time. I recall that drought, and then I see roots hanging. Some look like dry. Hank had gone out in the wood looking for another turkey. I reckoned. He had been feeling so bad lately. I didn't want to ask him too many questions, and I didn't want to wait for him to come back to take the ginseng to Pooh's store. I got a paper bag to carry the roots in and put on my coat. It was a sunny day and the road was a little muddy from thaw. The crossroads was only a mile and a half away. When I reached the store, I seen George Poole sitting by the stove, playing checkers with a man named Slim Lampkin, and Park Little was watching them play, and I had met them before at Mr. Pandaga's funeral. George looked surprised to see me because I almost never come to the store. Hey, Miss Julie, he said. You always call me Miss Julie, never just Julie. Howdy, I said, and nodded to him and Slim and Pug. To what do we owe the honor of your visit? George said. He turned his eyes back to the checkerboard. I brought some roots, I said, and placed a bag on the counter. What kind of roots? George said. Sang roots, I said. George made a move on the checkboard. It's mighty late in the season to be digging sang roots, he said. These was dug last year, I said, and have been drying ever since. All the men looked at me, for they must have guessed the root was Mr. Pendergast. George stood up and walked around to the other side of the counter. He emptied the pork I had brought on the counter. The roots looked littler than they had in the attic. You ain't been digging some roots, have you? Slim Lankin said. I didn't know Hank was a sand digger. Poor Little said, and grinned at Slim. Mr. Pendergast left them in the attic, I said. Pendergast wasn't able to go digging for the past year, Slim said. I don't know when they was dug, I said. All the cans on the shelves behind George looked like roosting birds staring at me. The store smelled of harness leather and coffee and wood smoke. This is awful dry, George said. He took a pan off his balance scale and heaped the roots in the pan. Then he placed the pan on one side of scale and added little weight to the other side. Preacher Gibbs used to dig ginseng, Slim said. Everybody used to dig ginseng, Pooh said. Back when there was still some to dig. There ain't but 3/4 of a pound here, George said. Is that all? I said. And these is so dry and old. I don't know if the man in Greenville will take them, George said. He just sells it to the Chinese. And the Chinese will buy any kind of ginseng, Slim said. Being dry don't hurt Sang, Book said. The price is down for roots anyway. George said. I figured George was going to tell me he couldn't buy the roots, that I had wasted my time taking them down there. I wondered if he thought the roots was mine to sell. Whatever you give me, I later give to Mr. Pendergast's heir, I said, when they can be found. I was glad nobody knowed about us giving the thing to Caroline Glascock. George worked with a pencil on a sheet of brown wrapping paper on the counter. At $2.75 a pound, I can pay you $2.06, he said. You mean you will pay me $2? I said. And 6 cents, George said. Make sure he gives you the 6 cents, Slim said. You have to watch George, Poe said. I'd not seen that much money since Hank gave his $5 to Caroline Glasgow or whoever the woman was. Honey, I wish it could be more. George said. I guess he's seen the astonishment on my face. George's terrible skin flint. Slim said. I would like to see George try to go through the eye of needle into heaven. Park said. I decided not to ask any more questions. I want you to take my coffee and sugar and get out of there. I want you to tell about our good fortune. Maybe it would cheer him up. Can I get 5 pounds of sugar and 5 pounds of coffee beans? I said. If you can carry that much, George said. He scooped out the beans and sugar into paper bags and tied them with string. I took a bag on either arm like twin babies. You have 27 cents left over, George said. I put the bags back on the counter and took the coins. Thank you, George, I said. I almost forgot you have a letter. George said. He stepped over to the pigeonhole that was post office at the far end of the counter and brought back an envelope with pencil writing on the front. I put the letter in my pocket because I didn't want to read it in front of George and Slim and Park. I walked As I walked up the road with the bags in the crooks on my arms and the envelope in my pocket, I kept thinking of the letter. From the handwriting, I could tell it was from Mama. Was she writing to say that somebody was sick or relative had died? Was she asking how I felt? Was she coming down for a visit? There was a big white pine by the road about halfway back to Mr. Pandaga's house. When I got to the big tree, I told myself I needed a rest. I was breathing for two and didn't want to hurry, and I couldn't wait no longer to see what was in the letter. I climbed the bank and sat down in the needles under the tall tree. The letter was wrote on 2 sheets of lined tablet paper in Mama's neat hand. You are well, you are well. I hope everything is alright with the baby, Mama wrote. There is no news here except that Lou and Gallant is getting married and when they're coming down to Gap Creek for a visit afterwards. I turned over the page and read the back as the breeze fluttered the papers in my hand. And Caroline is coming with them. Mama said Caroline is going to stay a few days with you and Hank while Lou and Gallant goes on to the Greenville. My hands were shaking with the news. It would be so wonderful to see Lou, except I hated for her and Gallant to see how poor we was. I turned to the last page to see when they were supposed to arrive. They will come down to Gap Creek next Wednesday, Mama said. I tried to recall what day of the week it was. It was already Wednesday because it had been 4 days since Hank went hunting for turkeys on Saturday. They was coming today. They might already been there. I stuffed the letter in my coat pocket and gathered up the 2 paperbacks. I hoped they hadn't arrived at the house while I was away and seen my dirty dishes and the bedroom where nothing had been picked up. You know how it is when you're trying to hurry. You stretch your leg but your feet stick to the ground. The load ahead grows longer and longer. I heard it hurry toward the house. And finally when I come around the bend, I seen Daddy's old wagon parked in the yard with Sally still hitched between the shafts. Lou and Gallons and Curly was already there. They had been my dirty house. I slowed down and caught my breath. My belly felt uneasy. I stopped a rest little before climbing the step. There was voices in the living room. Hank Gunn was leaning by the front door, but I didn't see no sign of Turkey. Well, look what the cat drug in, Lou said as I scanned through the door. And look what washed down off the mountain, I said. Lou shrinked and went to me for a hug. I hadn't seen her in nearly 3 months. Don't want to press you too hard, she said and patted my belly. It felt so good to see Lou. So you're looking mighty pert, I said, and set the paperbacks on the sofa. I said to Galen when he asked me to get hitched. Lou said, I was sad. I said, I will marry you if you will take down to Greenville so we can stop and see Julie and Hank on the way. Galen stood by the fireplace and tipped his hat to me. Take off your clothes and stay a while. I said, I wonder why Lou had decided to get Galen back. I figured she would tell me when we were alone. And welcome, Caroline, I said. Caroline was talking to Hank in the doorway to the kitchen and I patted her on the shoulder. Mama sent you some things, Caroline said and pointed to a box on a chair. There was a ham wrapped up in brown paper and several jars of jelly and jam. Why don't we all sit down? I said. I will take these things to the kitchen. We'll help you out, Lou said. Picked up the bags from the kitchen. I can do it, I said. You ought to be careful, Lou said. Grab that box, she said to Caroline. Expecting a baby is not a sickness, I said. Didn't say it was. Lou said, I was going to clean this house up, I said, but I had to go to the store. We can help you, Lou said. Can we, Caroline? Hank said He'd show me the barn and the spring house. Kellen said, "You can do that later," Lou said, sounding just like Mama. I had forgot how much Lou's voice was like Mama's. "I wish Mama could have come," I said. "Mama won't never leave the place anymore, except to go to the church." Lou said, "I think she's got art here in her bag because she walks stooped over. I wish I could see her," I said. Helen walked around the kitchen, looking into pots and boxes and inspecting cans and bottles on the shelves. She opened the sugar canister and seen it was empty. "Where is your sugar?" she said. "I got some today at the store," I said, "and some fresh coffee beans." "You don't need to fix anything special for us," Lou said. "It's your honeymoon," I said. "Yeah," Lou said and hugged me again. I'd never seen her so happy. "I want to go to Florida when I have a honeymoon," Carolyn said. "You will, darling, you will," I said. Carolyn had never had to walk like the rest of us, and she was the most romantic of all us sisters. "I sure don't want to go to Greenville on my honeymoon or Gap Creek," Carolyn said. Lou and me looked at each other and grinned. "Honey, whoever you marry will have some say about where you go," Lou said. "I want to marry somebody that likes trouble," Carolyn said. "Well, I hope you do," I said. Carolyn drifted back into the living room, and Hank took her and Galen out to the barn and to unhitch Sally and look around at the outbuildings. Lou and me lit in to clean up the kitchen and get some supper started. I poured the coffee and sugar into their cans and ground some fresh coffee beans.